Working 9 to 5. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Chad, and this week we actually got, well, I guess this month, we got a lot of cool stuff going down. Right at the top of the hour, we got, I'm gonna be on Lindy Bolt's channel, I think. You can check that link in the description down below if you haven't seen it. It was a really fun interview, and we're gonna do a follow-up. On top of that, a really cool member of the community sent me a couple of books to review, so that's gonna be really sweet. Be looking forward to some new textbook reviews coming up here shortly. And since Colorado, where I'm at currently because of the Rona, even though I should be in Japan, is opening up slowly but surely, I'm actually gonna be able to go out and purchase the new equipment I need for the year to make my quality go up again. Every year, a little step up. So everything is coming up Millhouse, finally. Now obviously with all that, there's tons of stuff to do, lots of editing, lots of new lenses and lighting and things to do. It takes mental energy. And as such, as a fan of sloth and lazy as I am, I wanted to do something this week that was still helpful, still beneficial to y'all, but wouldn't kill me like I'm expecting the next month of editing to be, essentially. So I figured I'd tell you guys a story. That's right, this is a story week. But not just any story, it's hopefully an instructional for you guys about how to be fearless, how to fail fearlessly, and if you're willing to do that, the benefits of it. What happens when you actually do it. When I first moved over to Japan, I knew essentially nothing about the language. I knew a couple set phrases, some words. I was screwed if I wanted to, in any capacity, make friends. And over the years, I've learned, it's been a common complaint in the language learning community when you're living in Japan, is finding deep friendships, especially when your language ability isn't, you know, I don't want to be like mean or anything, sufficient, I guess, right? To be able to form those really deep bonds with people. It kind of requires your inner man to communicate through the outer things, this nonsense, and then to go into the other inner man, and then a bond is made, and then you can go fight crime. Or at least that's what I did. Not the crime part, but the bond part. So how did I do it? I mean, when I was there, even in the early stages, I had really amazing friends. We hung out all the time. We would frankly barely speak both each other's languages, but we just wanted to hang out. And over the years, even though they didn't speak English super good and I didn't speak Japanese super good, because we didn't give up on each other and because we had this friendship, it eventually merged probably about 2 years ago to the point where I spoke enough Japanese and they spoke enough English that really we didn't have any trip-ups ever. And now that we've both surpassed that, it's even better because we can be monolingual in Japanese or monolingual in English and still be really cool and hang out with each other. But how did I get there? How did I meet these people? My channel's a lot of how did I get there with the Japanese. But I met these people before my Japanese was at the level where I could make deep friendships. So how did I do it? Well, the first one actually involves a little bit of the clothing item I'm wearing right now. I don't know if you guys can see it. If you can't see it super well, I'll put it on the, I'll put a picture on the screen. But if you can see this, this is written incredibly poorly because I made this, I think my first week I touched down in Japan. So I landed in Japan, I got to where I was staying, and then I essentially learned just from my experience of walking around, I'm probably not gonna make a friend very easy because I can't speak for anything. And if I said hello to someone, they'd walk by me. Or if I said hello and they actually said, you know, back hello in Japanese, they would say a whole bunch of other stuff and I would seize like an engine. I'd be like, I'm over my head. Can we go back to hello? I could do hello really well. So, you know, you got this block and you're, whatever it is, 8,000 miles from home. I don't speak their language. They hardly speak mine. I was lonely after a week. I was like, dang, man, I kind of want to I want to make a friend. And I didn't have the capacity to speak to them, to build that relationship. But I did have the very basics of Japanese, and I had a Daiso. If anyone doesn't know what the Daiso is, it is God's gift to this earth. It's a dollar store that doesn't suck. And I know those words don't usually go together, but it's true. But what I did was I already had this vest, and people would look at me, I noticed, when I was walking around Hakata Station or wherever I was at, they would look at me and be like, what the hell is this freaking giant? I'm like 187 centimeters, I'm 6'2", I'm a big boy, and I'm wearing this and skinny jeans and metal t-shirts. They would just look at me and maybe might get a laugh and they'd walk off or something. So I was like, what can I do to use this to my advantage besides the cuteness?
Oh my god!
Well, I could only ask basic questions. I knew Moss forms, how to turn stuff into sentences, and how to ask for something, because I probably only got to chapter 4 of the Genki books, right? And I also remember being on Facebook at some point in my life, and I saw that video of the guy holding the sign that says, do you trust, or I trust you, do you trust me, hug me please. And strangers would come up to him and hug him. Mind you, he did this in a Western country. Japan's not much for hugging. I didn't know that at the time. I knew nothing about the damn country when I went. So I tried it. And the crazy thing is it worked. Everyone told me Japanese people don't hug. Japanese people don't do physical affection. They don't do any of that stuff. And I'm telling you, wearing this, I got more hugs than I've probably ever gotten in the US. From grown men to little kids, high school girls snickering after school in their high school uniforms. What I would do is I would finish my 4 hours of schooling, quickly finish my homework, and then I would run out to the station, to libraries, to grocery stores, and I would just walk around. And eventually, I'd be looking at a shelf somewhere, and I would get hit. Almost like a glomp if you guys were in that cringy era. They're all cringy areas, but if you guys were at that point of going to conventions for anime, you would know about what a glomp, I think is what it's called, is. From just some Japanese high school girl, and I'd be like, oh God. And then I would try my best to communicate. And the cool thing about this was, yeah, I was limited, right? I could only do Moss forms, questions, ask something, and then pleasantries like hello, goodbye, please, that type of stuff, right? And here's the thing, eventually would exhaust what I knew, things would get awkward, they'd leave. But it happened so much that I got really, really good at that because I would go through all the pleasantries, introducing myself, my country, and every time I talked to these guys, I basically gained one kind of piece of something. I'd be like, oh, what's that? They'd say something, I go, I don't understand what's that. And then they would teach me that one thing, and then after that, it would get weird and they'd leave. But then I'd have that little piece of information for when the next person came up and hugged me. I don't think I realized how gropey this was. Maybe I shouldn't do this. But the moral of this story isn't to make a vest with this patch on it. In fact, the Japanese on the back of this looks horrible. The spacing's bad. It's not a good thing. But here's the message I want to give you guys. Even if your language is bad, like my thing back there, or my inability to communicate, right? Every instance that you get to talk to somebody is one little piece that you learn faster than someone who maybe didn't learn that thing and only went to class. I learned very quickly at my time at language schools, just living in Japan when I wasn't in language schools. The people who don't use it and aren't willing to make mistakes or to fail or to mess up or to not be able to speak very rarely get very good at the language. And people who are very daring and willing to mess up, who are willing to meet 1,000 people and be embarrassed because you mess up your words or you can't talk to someone. I easily talked to 1,000 people because of this vest, and it made me a lot better. And it made me realize I need people in real life to talk to. My class was not good enough. These textbooks weren't gonna teach me what I was hearing in my everyday life. Yeah, they give you the foundation, they teach you the grammar points, they give you words. That's not what I'm saying. There was a disconnect, and maybe you guys hear this too. If you've talked to a native Japanese person, and even if you feel like maybe I'm intermediate or whatever, and then you drop down in Japan and someone starts speaking Japanese to you, and it's just like, oh my God, I thought I understood this. And it just completely leaves you. You're not alone. That's common to all of us, myself included, right? I needed to speak to more people. And that leads me to my second story. This vest did not lead me, unfortunately, to any deep friendships. Led me to a lot of practice that gave me the very basic ability I needed to carry out some sort of conversation, but it was really bad and full of errors. But I wasn't embarrassed. I just needed to learn the language. I needed to know. That then, one hot day, I was out wearing my vest and it was scorching. It was the middle of summer in Japan. That summer actually is why I refuse to go to Japan in the summer now, because I'm from Colorado. I like Aspen, the snow, mountains, high elevation. I don't do sea level summer tropical heat. And I remember looking out past the canal, there's this little area where people skateboard a lot. But they were just a bunch of skaters, people that are skateboarding. And I skated a bit when I was younger, but I wasn't like amazing at it. And I saw it, they were just like me. They were drenched in sweat. They were wearing as little as they possibly could and still be, socially acceptable in Japan. And likewise, if you guys have been to this part of Japan, this part of Fukuoka, you know there's also a Family Mart literally right there in the corner. So me, being desperate to meet people, took off my vest and walked over to this place, and I bought probably 3,000 yen, about $30 worth of beer and tea and water and soda. It was all the cash I had on me. I brought 2 big freaking bags of these over to this skate park, and I couldn't convey the fact that, hey, I saw you guys are hot, here, drink this. I couldn't say a lot of that very well. So I said, here. That's all I said. I said, here, and I held it out, and I was so nervous because they were looking at me. There were some guys kind of on the sides laughing that this giant foreigner is holding out all these gifts. And then 2 people who are still my best friends to this day, Yuki and Lin, came over and started grabbing them and started handing them out to their boys, and they were all like, were laughing, and they were playing, a song came on. I think it was either Biggie Smalls or Tupac. Can't remember which song it was specifically, but it was one of those 2. And they were listening to classic rap, which I tend to enjoy. And then they asked me what my name was. And they started with a little bit of broken English, and then I realized that they exhausted their English. And then I started with my little bit of broken Japanese, and they realized I did that. And so what happened was every day we would meet to where our things maxed out, and we would each teach each other one extra thing, and one extra thing, and one extra thing. day after day. They always were there. And every day after school, I would go there and they would always be there. And it would be, hey, what's up, Chado? Every day. In fact, I learned most of my spoken Japanese from these guys. So I kind of talk like a street hoodlum, which is embarrassing. But it's cool too, because not many people can say that that was their speaking experience, right? And so every day over, God, 6-7 months, it got closer and closer until there was a point where using both English and Japanese, we could always communicate and figure out what we needed. I didn't always know the Japanese word, but I taught them enough English that if I used an English word in a slot somewhere in a sentence, they'd get it. And likewise, if they exhausted their English, they could throw in Japanese and I would get it. And that was the best point ever, because that was the point we became great friends. We hung out every day. We used to go to the beach and would light a fire out in Itoshima, and we would fish and skate out there at this little abandoned kind of crevice area. And then whatever we would catch on these little sabiki lines or little fish about this big, we'd skewer over the fire. You know, we'd go out on every holiday. If there was some sort of Japanese holiday, I was in a group chat with everybody online, and they would invite me. They go, Chad, you need to come to this. You're part of our group. And the feeling of them going, you're part of us. Like I was, just as much as they were, I was insurmountable. Like I could not be replaced. My God, it feels so good. And to this day, they are my best friends. Every time I go to Japan, I never ask them. They show up at the airport to pick me up. They help me drop all my stuff off at my apartment that I have over there. Every time it's my first day there, we the whole, like about 9 of us group go out to eat somewhere. It's just the best experience ever. And when I leave, they are freaking sad. And they ask me, okay, so when are you coming back? Like, it's such a great feeling. And because of that, even when I'm in America, I get calls from them all the time on FaceTime, on Instagram, online, just talking about our days, talking about what's going on at the skate park. I remember one of the parks that we skate at, they put all these, there was on like the major Japanese news that there's all these skaters at this park, and they put these little bumps so that way we couldn't skate there. And they're like, Chad, we're famous. And it's just so funny that that's my life now, is I have 2 very great groups of friends. I have like an American group of friends who speaks no Japanese, who knows nothing about that side of my life. And I have a group of Japanese friends. 2 of them speak pretty good English, but most of them don't, and they don't know anything about that English side of my life. And it feels, guys, I can't express it. Like, I get goosebumps talking about it because it's just one of the best things that's ever happened to me. I don't know, maybe that's dumb to you guys. Maybe you're not thinking about going to Japan and you're not worried about making friends. You're just studying Japanese because you like it. I understand. This video might not be for you, but the main concept of this video is not to do what I did, but to be as fearless as I was. And I'm not even puffing myself up. I'm a scaredy cat normally. I was very scared my first trip to Japan because I had no idea what to expect. But the people who are fearless in making mistakes, you're okay with making mistakes. You're fearless to try new things and fail at it because you don't know if it works. This succeeded in practice, failed at friends. My going to the park succeeded, but I needed to fail to figure out what worked. And if you guys are willing to do the same, I think you'll be okay in Japan. I think you'll be able to make friends after a long enough time. Alrighty, I'm sure I've bored you guys enough. I don't need to bore you anymore. If you guys like this video, be sure to like it down below. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or compliments, feel free to leave them in the comment box down below. I do personally read all of them. I'm starting a new thing here where if you're subscribed, I'm leaving an extra bit at the end of this video, which you cannot look at if you're not subscribed. If you're not subscribed, you need to click off at the outro. You can't stay through or the cops will come to your house and frame you for a murder. But if you are subscribed, you're more than welcome to go to the end of the video, watch through the outro, and you'll be able to see this new segment I'm gonna be adding at the end of my videos. And in fact, the cops will still come to your house, but it's really cool because they're gonna be really dope about it and they'll let you play with their guns. And that's a Chad Zimmerman fact. I promise you this will happen. If you subscribe, cops will come to your house after the outro and they will let you play with their guns. So yeah, consider subscribing. If not, just click off after the outro. But you can check me out on Twitch, twitch.tv/Chad Zimmerman. Also, Discord, I have a link down below, has like almost 400 awesome language learners in there. It's super active, and I'm in there too, so if you want to talk to me throughout the week, that's a great way to do it. But that's about it for me this week. I gotta get this thing edited. So love hard, love deep, and I will see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Of all these dreams I can't remember.
Hey, welcome to the subscriber only channel, guys. If you're watching this and you're not subscribed, you're not supposed to be here. The cops are on their way. If you are subscribed, I didn't really have a plan for this. I promised that and then didn't come up with a good enough excuse. I got my melodica, and I don't think anyone wants to hear a melodica cover of Dolly Parton's 9 to 5. So instead, I got, I mean, I gotta keep your attention somehow. This is an extra large Bush's baked beans, and I don't know, maybe I'll eat it with some chopsticks. I spilled it all over my melodica. Bye.